How's it going, and welcome to The Guitar Effect. My name's Rob. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at this. This is the Solid Studio Mark II from NUX, and this is their pretty much brand new amp modeler, cab modeler, EQ and ambient effects like reverb and delay all in one box. And what this basically is an amp replacement, right? So it can be used in two ways. You can either use your guitar into it and then use it to be your entire amplifier setup, or you can put it in between your head and cabinet as a direct box. So it can take your head in and then the cabinet out into your amp and then give you a direct sound for going to the PA. Now, straight out of the gate, I test a lot of these units, right? And including the previous version of this, which was a NUX Amp Academy, which is sort of different, right? It's closer, in my opinion, to the Amp Academy than it is the Solid Studio Mark I, because this has preamps as well as power amp, mic simulation, cabinet simulation, IR, EQ and reverb. It's basically the Amp Academy Mark II to me, rather than the Solid Studio Mark II. This is exceptional. NUX has done an absolutely outstanding job. I'm just going to get it right up into the camera there. NUX has done a absolutely outstanding job with this. So I'm going to get into a track and then the demo in a second. Before I do, I had the Amp Academy when it came out, and while I absolutely adored the sound of it, I didn't like the functionality of it all. The functionality of this couldn't be simpler. It's got 8, I think, even less, 7 amplifiers. You can load your own IRs, and there's a load of IRs included. There's a few different EQs, there's 4 reverbs and 4 delays. It's just so simple. The options are really limited, but in a really, really good way. And it sounds phenomenal. Now, the sound of something like this is quite subjective. What I love about this is all of the amps, regardless of how much like the original amps they sound, which I think is a moot point because one AC30 can sound completely different to another AC30. Same applies with a Deluxe, same applies with a Plexi or whatever. The approximate sounds and the general ballpark of the different amps that this emulates are brilliant. And the ability to combine them with different cabs and how immediately they sound brilliant with the minimal level of tweaking is absolutely class. I absolutely love this. I should mention at this point, NUX sent me this for free and I'm getting to keep it. They're not paying me to make the video, but it is a sponsored video in that sense. So, just to tell you about it, that's what's the first thing I want to say. Oh, okay, so before we get any further, I want to show you in a track. So I'm going to use 2 guitar parts in this track, one on the left, one on the right. I'm going to use a Deluxe reverb on one side and an AC30 on the other, and I'm going to put the Gretsch into the AC30 and probably my Les Paul with P90s into the Deluxe reverb, maybe a single coil guitar. I haven't done it yet. And I'm going to combine it with some effects. Like I'm going to put a Uni-Vibe beside one of them, and I'm going to use some drive pedals just to show you how well it takes pedals as well. I won't change amp sounds throughout the song, so you'll hear the amps on either side as if it was replacing the amp in a rig. So here is the song Don't Look Down by my band Kampala. There's a guitar part on either side. One's an AC30 and one is a Deluxe reverb. Have a listen and see what you think. The amps are all coming from this with pedals plugged in front. to me, that is super impressive. It just works so well. And those sounds were so quick and easy to get up when I was trying to put this together. So, to explain to you, there are 4 buttons across the front, first of all, and they are Amp, IR, EQ, and Ambience. You click on each one of them to turn off the amp, the IR, the EQ, or the reverb or delay. And then you hold it to go in and edit it, and then you edit various parameters by cycling through with this encoder and clicking it to select. There's a button here to go back to the main menu, and there's a button here to turn the Solid Studio on and off, right? You can also set it up so that this cycles through presets and this turns the preset on or off. As I mentioned before, there's different routing options to allow you to use it as a regular just amp in a box, or sorry, amp modeler in a box, or do different things, or you can set it up in between your head and cab. It has a headphones in and a aux in. I would have preferred, to see them as MIDI in and out jacks. MIDI in and out jacks would really take this to the next level. It's my only complaint about it. I don't know why they didn't put MIDI on it. Even put MIDI on the other side. It has a USB port which you can use MIDI, but that's going to require you using some sort of USB to MIDI conversion. And to me, if it doesn't have MIDI ports, it doesn't have MIDI. MIDI over USB, I'm not having it, not yet anyway. You need to have MIDI via MIDI ports. They can be mini jacks, that's fine, but MIDI over USB is not a common enough thing to say that if a pedal has MIDI over USB, it has MIDI. It doesn't. This doesn't have MIDI. You can get a MIDI over to USB converter, but I'm not buying that. Other than that though, this is perfect, right? So with that in mind, let's have a listen to it. So here is the Solid Studio Mark II in action. Okay, so to demo the Solid Studio, I'm playing this. This is my Bernie Les Paul. It's not a Japanese Bernie, it's just one of the recent kind of Far Eastern made Japanese Bernie, or Chinese Bernies I think, but it's an extremely good guitar. And the reason I'm playing this is I find P90s are a really good halfway house between single coils and humbuckers for demoing amp modelers. I recently, last night I was playing through this, and I was playing my Tele and my Les Paul through it, and they both sound great, but this really kind of sits right in the middle and does a really good job. So what I'm going to do is, I have set up, I think, 5 presets on the Solid Studio 2, and the reason that I'm, like a lot of channels will go through stock presets, I never go through stock presets. I always set up the sounds I want and demo those. So, the first one I have done, and I have the interface on the screen over here that I'm going to be referencing to tell you about the way it's set up, but I will go through the interface at the end, right? So right now I'm on this clean Fender bass. If I dig in, it gets a tiny little bit gritty. Never gets dirty, it just kind of gets more present. Bridge, middle, and neck. So, the first thing I'm going to do is just show you quickly all the stuff you can do in the face of the unit. So, there's 2 switches. This switch bypasses the amp modeling. So, just get my guitar, amp modeling back in. There's 4 indicators here in the top. There's amp, IR, EQ, and ambience. People that watch my channel regularly know that I never use EQ when amp modeling. And the reason for that is, it sort of opens up too many possibilities. So, you can tweak EQ forever and keep changing the sound and changing the sound. I like to just use the EQ that's on board on the amplifiers and use that to get my sound, and not use EQ to try and tweak the sound that I'm doing. So my EQ block is always off. So how I got this sound, you can see here as well, there's 2 basically lines beside the patch number, and they are Dr. Z 212 G12M and Fender 112V type. Now, there's 2 IRs on every patch. However, they're panned left and right. I don't want to use 2 IRs, I just want to use 1, unless for some reason I want to go stereo. I'm only going mono, so I'm coming out of the guitar into the amp 11 here beside it to show how it racks the pedals. And then beside that then I have the Solid Studio, out of the Solid Studio into a channel on my interface, right? So, that's all the parameters that are on the face of the unit. So what happens is you've got amp, IR, EQ and ambience here. You click on any one of them, it turns it on or off, but if you hold it down, it gets into the parameters of that unit. So say I want to change the preamp. These are all the controls of the preamp. So I have the, what would you call it, the input patching. And so I'm plugged into the low channel on input 1 with channel 2 patched into the bright channel
it's very hard to explain, but basically I have the channels jumpered, right? And then I have my normal volume and my bright volume, and if I click it again, I get all my EQ, and that's the controls of the amp, okay? So if I want to come back from that, I can change the amp model here, so I can go bassmate, jazz clean, I'm going to go back to bassmate, and I can change the power amp here, so I can 6L6 to solid state, to 6V6, etc. But I don't want to do any of that. I'm going to come back out, and I'm going to go into the IOR. Turn it on, turn it off, hold it down to go in. And these are all the IORs that are available to me, and I literally cycle through whichever one I want and select it, back out, and then over to Ambience, turn it on, turn it off, keep doing that. And then these are the different reverbs that are available to me, plate, hall, room, but there's also delays. But I want to stick with spring on this, okay? And that's basically the controls for the preset. You can also obviously go into the EQ and you can turn it on and go in and edit it. And that's your EQ. That's a 3-band EQ. There's lots of different types of EQ. So I go back out and I don't want the EQ on. So that's what you get on the face of the pedal, right? If you then hold down the global switch, you get all these global controls. So there's a noise gate you can control. There is a global EQ you can control. There's a level you can control. There's an in-out. So I'll talk about this for a second. If I go to the in-out for a sec and then click it, there's two ways you can run this. You can run it like an amp modeler, plug into the front of a play and get your amp model sound out of the end. Or there's a through input on the back here in between these two jacks, which means you can actually take the cable from your head with your amplified signal, plug it into this, and then go into your amp, but simultaneously take your preamp from your head, actually your preamp power amp from your head sound, and then put a cabinet simulation on this. So you can use your own amp and use this purely as a cab sim. Now it's not an IO, it's not a load box, so you can't use it to attenuate the signal, but you can run your amp live and then use this for direct sound to the PA where you would have cabinet simulation, okay? And if I go back out, you've also got display, which is just brightness. You've got foot switches. There's two ways to use the foot switches. You can use the foot switches as the global back and forth thing, and then you use this to turn it on, or you can use one to turn it on and one to cycle up 3 presets. That's the foot switches mode. There's a parameter follow. It's kind of hard to explain. And then there's a factory reset. But what people want to hear is how it sounds. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, certain brands will sort of get inside your head, and NUX has gotten inside my head in terms of, as far as I'm concerned, NUX make amp modeling that I enjoy. It's as simple as that. I don't know whether it's captures, I don't know whether it's models, I couldn't give a monkeys. I don't care about what the technology is, all I care about is how does it sound when I plug my guitar in, and NUX's amp modeling sounds brilliant. I love the way it sounds. I don't even know how authentic it is, I just know that in the ballpark of what I believe I want different amp sounds to do, it does it really well. So, here is the Fender Bassman sound, right? So the way the Fender Bassman sound is constructed is, it's a Fender Bassman with the channels jumpered, like I said, the EQ on the amp, bass is backed off, middle and treble, treble's pushed a little bit, presence pushed a little bit, the bias is very high, and the level is sort of in the middle. And then I have a Dr. Z 212 G12M cabinet. And I just love the sound of it. If I was going to use this with pedals in front of it all the time, that would be the sound I'd do. So it's got a nice top end, it's got a nice mid-range, and it doesn't have too much bottom end, but it's not like, you know, lacking in bottom end either. Neck pickup, middle. And just to show you how a pedal sounds with that, so without a pedal and with the amp 11. I mean, that's exactly the way I want an amp to react to an amp 11. Very, very happy with that. And then to boost that again. I literally have zero worries or complaints about that as a bass, what's the word? Pedal platform amp tone. Brilliant. Okay, so moving on. The next one is my Marshall sound. So this is kind of like a bit gainier, but not my heavy sound. So it's kind of like my plexi sound. If I wanted to do, say, All Right Now. Really nice. I can hit that with a pedal. Could maybe do it a little bit more bass, so I can just go into the bass, turn up the bass in the preamp. A little bit less presence maybe. Without the pedal. That's a bit better. But that's my kind of plexi sound. So what that is, that's a 1987 with an EL34 power amp into, again, the same Dr. Z 212 G12M. Bit more output, I think, maybe a little bit. Okay, so I've edited that sound. So say I want to save it, all I do is I hold this button down. I can change the name if I want, and I hit save at the end here, and that's saved the changes to that preset. So, from there, we go into the Vox AC30 preset. Now, this sounds so dramatically different to the Marshall that that's what I really, really like. It almost sounds bad if your headspace is in that of a Marshall, right? Not really. So that's the AC30 model, and with an EL84 preamp into the AC15 Alnico silver speaker. I preferred that just purely on this instance to the sound of the blue speaker. What I always gauge this with is the sound of Animal Nitrite by Suede. Like, I love. It's like my finger picking, like rootsy, grungy, rocky kind of sound. Not grunge as in like where Pearl Jam were in the like 2000s. Just sounds brilliant. Like, what a great amp modeler. So moving on from that, I have my deluxe reverb sound. So this is my kind of more warm, Fendery clean sound than necessarily what the bass one was. And this time it's a deluxe reverb amp model into a 6v6 power amp into the Buddha 112 Al Nico blue cab because that's the one I like the best. And there's a little bit of high cut on here to get rid of some top end. I'm using an SM57 and it sounds like this. Brilliant! With the pedal. NUX get how I want amp modelling to sound. So that is the deluxe reverb sound. Again, I just love how it sounds. And lastly, I have this heavy. What's interesting about this is I've chosen to curb the top end on this Marshall compared to the other Marshall quite significantly. And that is done by the choice of cab. So this is it's the same. So Dr. Z212 G12M. I'm on the Brit 1987. Actually, I want to change that to the Brit 59 SL. I already did this, but I didn't save it, so I'm going to drive up the presence a little bit and drive up the volume significantly. Wah! That is a Grunge 59 plexi. It's exactly how I want a heavy sound to sound. There's a bit of level balancing to be done here, you know, with the different tones. I haven't done that quite well yet. I've only had it for 2 days. So that's just not heavy enough for that part. So this is where the pedal comes in. That's a proper heavy sound to me, anyway. So, there are the 5 sounds I've got. Here's the thing. How do I just mute this? I'll just turn my guitar down. So here's the thing about this. I will then put this on the edge of my little table that I use for making demos, and this will be my new amp that I use for making demos. It's small, it's compact, it's relatively affordable. And it can do everything I need and do it really, really well. And like I said before, this is an important thing here. NUX simply somehow got inside my head, and their amp modelling is how I want amp modelling to sound. This is absolutely brilliant. I love it straight out of the box. It's really easy to use. So what I'll do is I'll make a little snippet now where I show you the interface and show you how all that works. Okay, so I have the interface up on screen here in front of me. Once you download it, this is what you'll be presented with. It's really, really simple and it's really nicely laid out. Okay, so you have, across the top you have your number, your preset number. If you click in, you can see all the presets that are there. You have the name of your preset. I've called this one Marshall. You have your two IORs. I'm only running one IOR, but the IOR I'm running is this Doctor's E212G12M. And then I'll skip over the preamp for a second, and then you get into IOR section. You have the name of the IOR, which you can select any one of the ones you want. Then you have whether you want it on the cone edge, the cone, the cap edge, or the cap. I generally go for the cone or the cone edge, depending on whether I want it a little bit brighter or a little bit darker. And then there's a distance from the speaker. So the further away, the more ambience you get. I like it up on the speaker. You have your mic choice over here. For a Marshall, I'm going for an SM57. Sounds like this. Still playing the same guitar. Okay, and then you have the ability to control the level of the cab. In effect, you have a low cut, you have a high cut, neither of which I've on, and you have a pan. This is panned left 100, and over here you can see if I was using stereo, the other one would be panned right 100. Now that does mean if I wanted to, I could make this more complex by panning that right 100 and bringing in the other cab, but that just brings something else for me to spend a lot of time tweaking. I just want the one cab. Right, and then up here you have the amp, you have the IOR, which you can't click on, because the reason that you can't click on it is the IOR is permanently up. You have the EQ, which is there, I don't have it on, and then you have the ambience. So down here you can select which ambience you want: spring, plate, hall, room, phi delay, tape echo, analog delay, or pan delay, right? Now, to turn each one of these off took me a while here. You have to hold control and click it and it turns it on and off. So with reverb, without reverb, control click. Reverb's nice on it actually, this is a plate. So if I go over and click on the amp, it gives me all the amp controls. So this is exactly as you might expect. So say I wanted to remove the normal channel, I would click that off, click that off. It's hard to do, to get it right. There, now I'm only in the normal channel. If I want to bring in the bright channel, it took me a while to figure this out. There. And now I can control the amount of low gain. It's actually making it a bit nicer. And the amount of bright gain. And that will determine how dirty or heavy your sound is. Then you have your bass, middle and treble, which is self-explanatory. Presence, bias sort of controls the compression characteristics, and then level is obviously the volume. And that's kind of the interface. Oh yeah, and then you can choose your preamp here. There are 8 preamps to choose from. Actually, one thing to talk about here is they've chosen 8 vintage amps. I really appreciate that. It looks like they're going to add to it with updates over time, but right now these 8 vintage amps suit me down to the ground. They can do everything I want to do, and if I ever want to get modern sounds, I'll hit them with pedals. And then there's a ability to choose between 5 very simple power amp stages over here, and that's kind of it. A brilliant product from NUX, and thanks so much for them for sending it out. This is going to make my YouTube channel a lot easier. In case you can't tell, I'm kind of blown away by this. Up to now, I have been using the 2 Notes Revolt into a cab sim from from Joyo, actually, as my rig. Selling both of them. This is replacing both of them. So immediate. And like, just to say, the Revolt's an amazing product. It has a tube preamp, basically, with 3 different channels. This is just quicker and easier and better, and I'm just blown away by it. I don't even know how much this is. I'm thinking around the €200, maybe €250 mark. I'll put the price up on screen now. Whatever it costs, if you can get your hands on one, do. Again, I got sent this for free by NUX, but NUX, blown away. If you're looking for something to put on the end of your pedal board as an amp modeler, stop, go and buy this. It's absolutely brilliant. Oh yeah, and also to say, the 7 amps that are in it are vintage style amps. I think they're going to add more amps as time goes on, but right now there's only those 7 amps that are available for it. So thanks to NUX for sending us out. Any questions, throw them in the comment section down below. I'm happy to answer them. And I'll see you in another video again soon. Probably another NUX video, because they sent me 3 things. They sent me the
amp core deluxe as well as this, which is the sort of compact version of this with MIDI. They put it in that, but they didn't put it in this. Mad. And they sent me their new Fender Bassman in a box pedal, which I'm really looking forward to trying because I really love Fender Bassman amps. So, if you've watched this far, I say thanks. Please like and subscribe, it helps the channel out loads, and I'll see you in another video again soon. Take it easy. Bye bye.